just in June. As of the count right now, it was 5 in June, now 7 million this time.
Where'd you get that
This is
count
also
from?
a bit.
I'm curious where that count comes from. I can't find an official number.
Okay, well,
they do. Really hard.
Well, like the police officers, like the NYPD, did their count of who was there. They estimated it at 100,000, so you get it that way. You also have people who signed up and registered to make sure that they made it known that they were going to go.
It's not an official number. It's from the actual.
You know what? Only 5 people were there. It was me and 4 of my family.
I didn't say that. I just want you to be.
It is.
You're not taking it.
I said it was estimated. You don't take anything at face value. I get that now. So I'm just going to use my 90 seconds and then get out of here. I also think it was a bit of a turnout rally for Virginia and New Jersey to get people amped up for the fact that we have these big elections coming up that mean a lot about the future of the party. I wanted to add as well that Gallup's numbers for Americans Party ID came out. It's shifted in 2025, D +7. It was, we were down -4 at the end of 2024. So it has been a good year in terms of Democratic morale that way.
One thing is strange, Katie, and I'm not saying it wasn't anything. I mean, they had a little signs of life. But they were able to do this immediately after the first term, like on the second day, right? That's when that happened. This is 9 months later. So it's taking them a little bit of time. But I think that's partly because their leadership is so fractured.
Yeah.
And you have Kamala Harris, she's out there. Now Karine Jean-Pierre is going to be out there. Zohar Mamdani is taking over the attention meter. So you have a lot of people out there saying Trump is a king, but they're out there protesting him freely in the streets.
Yeah, they were pretty stunned after Trump beat them again, after they threw everything they possibly could at him, and he still won a second term. So it took them some time to find their sea legs, and they still really haven't, and they are fractured with how they want to go and what direction they're trying to go. And I think the elections that we're going to see in New Jersey and Virginia will be helpful to them to try and find their footing. But when I was at the BLM Plaza in March, when they were ripping it up in Washington, D.C., there was a lone white woman there protesting by herself. And I'm glad that she found some friends this weekend because I felt very sorry for her. But this is the parade of the woke white liberals. It's the same people you've seen cause shopping for years and years and years. Jesse mentioned the Women's March, BLM. You saw them singing outside of federal government agencies during the Doge cuts. They just show up when they feel like they have something to say, even if it's counterintuitive to what they've been saying or believed in before. I mean, you see American flags now. How many years has it been since they've really embraced the American flag? It used to be racist. They wanted to get rid of it. They were fine with people burning it at their riots in the summer of 2020. But the bigger picture here is this was mostly peaceful. But there are people in these rallies who, when they were asked about whether President Trump, if he were killed, if it would be worth it, if it would be something they were okay with, half of them said it would be fine. You had a staffer from a college in, I believe it was Denver, calling for ICE agents to be shot. So there is this underlying violence problem that the left has. Maybe it's not the woke white liberals who are showing up to different causes with these protests, but they do have this problem on their hands of people who think violence is the option for getting what they want.
So where do we go from here?
Well, the reason why I interrupted Jessica, because I keep hearing the number 7 million, and nobody ever supplies the backup sentence that says from X, because there is no X. There is no official accounting. When you go and you look for it, they say they get these numbers and they estimate it from the organizers. Imagine, this is like believing Jesse when you ask him how many girlfriends he had in college. Divide by 4. Okay, so maybe
7 million.
Yes. I will give credit where credit's due. It was largely nonviolent and non-confrontational. There were idiots that said terrible things. If you went and you asked them, they would say, "I hope Charlie Kirk dies." That was happening a lot, and you can call them old. They called Trump rallies old. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, he was the one who single-handedly destroyed that narrative with Turning Point. But again, I've said this before, this is an imaginary solution to an imaginary problem. If you look at their list of grievances, they're concepts. They cannot be measured. This is why Republicans are so popular now. Crime, drugs, immigration are real things that generate statistics. You can measure it. I don't think you can measure, I know CNN will come up with it, measure a stat for authoritarianism. It's gone up 137% since 2023. But right now, you can't. If you could measure authoritarianism, as Jesse points out, shutting down schools, parks, and speech would make Joe Biden the king of kings, but you're not going to measure that. So why do they believe in it? And you hit on this. Democrats are not used to seeing action. When Trump would say it doesn't always have to be this way, they didn't know what that meant. It's like, wait a second, you mean you can deport illegals? You can lock up recidivist criminals? Why didn't we think of that? Action. What is action? See, we have a conversation. That's our action. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out a committee. But they never did a damn thing. And now you're seeing Democrats going, especially like in San Francisco. That city's on the mend. It's because they're actually doing stuff. They're arresting recidivists. They're hiring more cops. So I think it's like when Trump said, I work my ass off, that's exactly what it is. And they are not used to seeing it. They're in a shock. I think about the interviews that we were seeing of black people in D.C. and Memphis and Chicago talking about the crime crackdown. They weren't talking about monarchy. They were talking about safety in their streets. That was important to them. You compare that to the interviews of the people on Saturday. Largely white, older, soft academic bodies who can afford to march for conceptual fears that don't exist. Not real fears like mugging or carjacking or looting of their small businesses. They, however, God, they're so lucky. Imagine how lucky you are on a Saturday that this is your problem. I bet if you walked out there to that group and you said, have any of you ever been mugged? Has any of your businesses been looted? Have you ever been carjacked? Or do you know somebody that has been a victim of that? They wouldn't raise their hand. How lucky are they that they get to spend their afternoon not worrying about the things that everybody who lives in a city does? I think that's the story. Generally, imaginary concerns are harmless until they become harmful. When they become the narrative, suddenly you will see Charlie Kirk. Again, he gets shot and killed. Why? Because an amplified, phony narrative made him Hitler. Why was Trump shot at? Same reason. So this is harmless for now.
What a great way to start off the week, guys.
Congressional Democrats are celebrating what they consider a victorious weekend with the No Kings rallies all across the country. This comes as we near the start of a fourth week of the partial government shutdown. Senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram tells us where things stand tonight from Capitol Hill.
Democratic political royalty vowing a farewell to kings.
We will not bow down to any monarch.
This is what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Democrats believe the rallies electrify their base and could boost midterm turnout.
Millions of people you saw on the streets as protesters on Saturday become organizers in 2026 for us to take back Congress.
But Republicans say Democrats must be careful, aligning with progressives.
If these same left-wing groups have their way, Democrats will be keeping up the shutdown for a long time to come.
Democrats say congressional Republicans must stand up to President Trump.
Republicans don't do anything without getting permission from their boss. Donald Trump clearly wants the government shut down.
But Republicans believe the government shutdown backfires on Democrats.
If they think he's this king, why would they cede all of the power to the executive branch?
There are still no formal talks to end the shutdown.
We're hoping the Democrats become much less deranged.
Democrats say President Trump is key.
If he will engage, we'll find a path forward.
The government is laying off 1,400 workers who safeguard the nation's nuclear stockpiles. What keeps you up at night about what parts of this federal government are not operating?
Every day that the government is shut down, it is a danger to the American people.
There's particular concern about air traffic controllers.
Their next paycheck comes a week from Tuesday, and in that paycheck, there will be no dollars.
Air traffic controllers are now working gig jobs to stay afloat. The White House is hunting for ways to pay controllers, and the GOP could dare Democrats to oppose a bill paying essential workers. Brett?
Chad Pergram live on Capitol Hill. Chad, thanks.
We're joined now by two people who've been digging into these No Kings protests. Azra Nomani, editor with The Pearl Project. Jason Rant, Seattle Red talk show host. Azra, let's start with you. Are these, protests simply, organic, people, emailing maybe on social media and so forth? So it all just came together, grassroots from the people?
Absolutely not. This is a protest industry. And so what I did is what I've learned to do in journalism, which is follow the money. And I established that there's 260 organizations that were behind this No Kings protest. And as Jenica Pounds, a computer scientist with Data Republican, said to me, they have built an empire, these left-wing organizations, using nonprofit status to use the machine that we have in America to wage a war, a political war on Donald Trump. And so everything was orchestrated. It was political theater from beginning to end, from social media. And the real question for people is the fact that these organizations we're living rent-free, basically tax-free in America, pulling off these protests.
Yeah, it seems like, Jason, there are hundreds of organizations behind these protests. It's not one particular organization, but it is like, I really think it's actually their social life. I don't know if because we don't have clubs, community civics organizations anymore, they think those are racist. I don't know. But this is as close to church as many, not all, but many of the protesters who showed up really have anymore.
Yeah, they don't believe in God, but they do believe in this kind of activism, and this is what they do professionally. And they're taking advantage of different tax codes like 501c4 status, which a lot of these organizations are. Those are supposed to be social welfare organizations, and they're allowed to get political, but they don't have to disclose their donor list, which is how all of this dark money ends up getting funneled here. I mean, in the case of No Kings, you have Indivisible, which is the primary organization behind it. It gets funding, however, from places like the George Soros Foundation, his Open Society foundations. They're getting that kind of money, and then they're getting institutional support from all of these other groups that Azra just pointed out. Everything from the mainstream stuff like the ACLU, but also to groups like the Communist Party of America, where they might not donate directly to Indivisible, but what they do is they share their contact list, or they reach out to their contact list, say, hey, show up at so-and-so for this event. And the money that they do end up spending, these groups in general, is for like signage, things like that, but also the professional activists who show up, who then use this to get more contact information for the people who show up, and then solicit for funds for donations from them.
Yeah, Open Society's foundation, by the way, gave us a statement saying, we support a wide range of independent organizations that work to deepen civic engagement through peaceful democratic participation. Our grantees make their own decisions about their work consistent with the law and the terms of their grant agreements. I don't think Azra, a lot of pro-life organizations that were truly fighting something noble, the slaughter of millions of babies in the womb. I don't think they got any money from George Soros. I certainly don't think parents groups that you helped launch years ago in Fairfax County, Virginia, I don't think they got any help. Only a particular ideology gets help from the Open Society Foundation.
Yeah, I mean, they are basically fueling the machine. And Jason mentioned the 501c4 organizations that are political organizations, allowed to do a limited amount. But according to my data analysis, about 100 of the organizations are 501c3. And they are supposed to do very little political work. They are absolutely supposed to be nonpartisan. But some of the names of these groups is literally resist Trump. That's not very subtle there. And then build the resistance, along with, as Jason was mentioning, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. They bring the foot soldiers to this movement and create this myth of the marching millions. And I want everybody to know that, this is theater. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But it's an industry, and it must be checked.
Well, Jason, finally, do you think, as Trump said, this in any way is representative of a wide swath of the American electorate?
I think he's correct in that it clearly isn't. I mean, I heard a lot of the language of this is what democracy looks like. No, democracy looks like the Electoral College map, where you had 77 million voters who voted for Donald Trump and 312 Electoral College votes. That's what democracy looks like. These are folks who are protesting